Hey, welcome back to All Things Baseball Podcast. We just did an interview with Mr. Drew Talley, owner of Talley Performance and Top Tier Southeast.
Yeah, I mean, he took us through really his whole baseball career from when he was, very young to, obviously winning the national championship.
Incredible work ethic. We got to play together, over 10 years ago now.
Right.
And
so we knew a lot.
Yeah.
But we didn't know everything. And
Exactly,
he took us through really his entire baseball career, the ups and the downs, how he overcame. Great story for the kids, I think, and for anybody who's, obviously everybody should be persevering in their life. But he kind of spelled it all out. And then what he's doing now.
Yeah. He's with Top Tier now, and we got to see, how many teams he's coaching and, how hands-on he is with everything.
And his brother.
And his brother as well, Mr. Blake Talley.
That's right.
It was really fun. Hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. So welcome. We got Drew Talley on, owner of Talley Baseball Performance. Drew, thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, guys, thank y'all for having me on. I'm excited to talk about my journey and a few things, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I appreciate it. We talked a little bit before, but we've been playing together for about 10 years. I think the first time we got to play together, this was it was about 10 years ago. It was in the fall, the Team Dinger. Kind of knew.
Now, that was a fun team. We talked about that, Drew. That was your baby. You remember that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny how all that you've done, and we're going to learn about what you did. You actually
started at a young age.
Kent Murphy.
That's right. It was actually, so if I remember correctly, it was me, Joseph Flanders, and Jacob Woodard. We had been watching Kent Murphy a lot, and we just come up with the idea, and we're like, we wanted to start a team and whatever, and I was like, Team Dinger. I was like, that just, who would want to play those guys?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Can you explain for the people listening who Kent Murphy is and what kind of videos he makes?
So Kent Murphy is one of the first guys who really got baseball going on YouTube on the comedy level. Mm-hmm. And he had the whole youth market by a chokehold, and everybody was going around saying things maybe when their parents weren't around that Kent Murphy was saying.
Yeah.
But he was hilarious. He kind of really started that social media presence, and he was hilarious. I remember he would post his videos on Sunday nights every week, and I just couldn't wait to watch them. So.
Right. It was like a new position or just like chirping or oh my gosh. It was him, and I remember Domingo Ayala because our buddy Justin, he would always do the Domingo stuff. Oh my gosh.
And that's how it started. And I coached that team. It was actually one of my favorite teams. Probably my favorite team that I ever coached, because I really didn't have to do anything. Like, it was literally just. It was really just when you guys kind of came to me like, we want to do this Team Dinger thing. Can you just roll out the balls and let us play? It was really just fun. It was a fall where we were only playing a few weekends, but we played some good teams and drilled them. And got some reps in and had some fun and laughed a lot. I remember that.
Yeah. And that was probably the most fun I had. Cause it was a combination of serious but unserious baseball, because we were honestly so talented as a team. Like, we didn't have to perform at our best to go beat everybody, and we would still do it. And I just remember just getting together. I still have pictures of me and Team Dinger, and we had I think almost every guy on that team may have went on to play college baseball, and or even further. So it was pretty neat to get together and have that experience. So
it was, and that was, I knew we knew we knew you a little bit beforehand at some of the facilities. I can remember Johnny bullpenning you at 14 at
Yeah.
the old the Paul Baki's place.
Yep. Yep. I remember that.
Right.
And
Yep.
which went through different iterations. Doing that, and then obviously you guys were rivals in high school. So, what we really wanted to learn today is we know you from Team Dinger and high school and all that, but you've had an amazing journey going on for baseball. And if you could kind of take us through, high school and then how you got to college baseball and all that, and tell us about your journey playing, and then obviously we'll get to what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll even go a step further. Back in, really got started with baseball from as far as I can remember in Mayfair Park. I played Mayfair Park till probably 7 or 8 years old, and it then transferred to travel baseball, which at that time, travel baseball was more of at 9 years old. If you played travel baseball, you were probably considered one of the better players in your area. And that may not be the case today as travel ball stands, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I played on the Bulldogs that Joey Flanders and my dad put together, and that's had Justin Foscue. I mean, all those Jake Krista, Woodard. That team had a lot of those guys that actually ended up going to Team Dinger. So that was kind of my first taste of travel ball, and it was obviously a blast. It was very serious baseball, but nothing like it is today. I mean, goodness gracious, some of these games I go to, I mean, it's just crazy how some of these parents and what the game has turned into, and not necessarily the positive way. But so I ended up from the Bulldogs to I played on the Bucks travel team, and then ended up when I got a little bit more serious. So this is something I tell my kids all the time that I train or coach. I knew I was an okay baseball player, but I really didn't know until I was probably in 7th grade. About 12 years old is when I really felt like I kind of started to separate in a way as far as talent. And, because I actually played middle school football in my 7th grade year, and I started throwing pretty hard, and my coach was like, I don't need you getting laid out in football and missing the baseball season. So that's kind of when I chose at a young age to really be a one-sport athlete, and so that really happened in my 8th grade year. I was throwing, 82, 85 at 13 years old. And I was like, okay, now I know I throw hard. My hitting kind of regressed a little bit. I mean, it wasn't like I was bad. I mean, I still was the 4 or 5 hole, but I mean, I kind of felt the pitching go up, the hitting start to go down. So I decided to take the turn of going to a PO my freshman year. I went to Coach Sharp. So let me give some background here. I went from Huntsville till 3rd grade. I transferred to Buckhorn 3rd to 8th grade, and I came back to Huntsville my senior year.
Right.
So when I came back my freshman year, Coach Sharp, I had him talk with him, and I was like, Coach, I really just don't want to hit anymore. And he's like, Are you sure? And he I was like, yes, I'm the throws from shortstop are killing me. When I was a freshman, I was, mid upper 80s, and it was just obvious where I was headed. I was not the Shohei Ohtani or Paul Skeens. I was like, I'm a pitcher. So then that's when my recruiting really heavily picked up. I played on the Nashville Knights, and I started getting recruited pretty heavily my freshman year. So my first visit / offer was UNC, University of North Carolina, and I went up to a USA Baseball event, and I hit 91 at 13 years old in North Carolina in front of them. So they had me on campus the next day.
Right.
So here's kind of where my journey takes off a little bit. I threw 91 at 13, 14 years old. They had me on campus the next day. At that time, they were the #1 team in the country. And I committed in their office that day, first offer.
No.
And I was like, as you'll get to know throughout this podcast, I made a lot of impulsive decisions. And as a 14-year-old would at the number one team in the country, I was like, sold, I'm in. So ended up, I was committed there for about a year or two, and then ended up decommitting because as I sat on it a little longer, the hype kind of wore off, and I was just kind of really sitting there like, do I really want to be 10, 11 hours away from home?
Right.
So ended up decommitting and then committing to Auburn. That was the next journey. I was committed to Auburn for about 6 or 8 months, and I ended up decommitting from them because that was at that time was when Butch Thompson took the job. They had a coaching change. I think they just had sent out too many scholarships, and they were wanting to reduce mine. And I was just like, it just I was like, this may not be home. I kind of felt like I was getting a little bit pushed out. So at this point, it's super late in my senior year. So like this is spring senior year. I never even really had a chance to get recruited because I committed to the first school, I decommitted, and I committed to Auburn that next day. So I never really went through the whole process how I should have if I would have been a little bit more patient. So my last option was when I finally was mid-senior year, had nowhere to go, it was Western Kentucky and Memphis. Those are my two offers outside.
Do you remember when we saw you there with your brother? Johnny was trying out
at Western Kentucky. Okay, I do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we saw you there. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So that was those were my two offers, and then junior college. And at that time, my 15 or 16, 17-year-old self was like, no, no shot. Like it was not like how it is now.
Right.
So I ended up going to Memphis because my best friend in high school, Daniel Wright, was going to Memphis. Memphis had offered me 3 times, and I was like, that I'm wanted there. So go there my freshman year. I played, I think through 20 innings. I was the only freshman that pitched. I had a really good year. And then I ended up getting hurt my sophomore year. I hurt my neck. And so I ended up taking a medical red shirt, which is what leads to me, so after this medical redshirt year, I'm heading into the end of the season, and I go to my coach. I said, "Hey man, like I'm gonna enter the transfer portal. Like this was the first year this was a thing." And no, I'm sorry, it was not. It was the next year. It was because my only options were Division II or JUCO if I left Memphis because they were a D1. So this is where it kind of gets interesting. I had offers from Montevallo, a couple of D2s, great schools, great baseball schools too, and then some junior colleges. And, I'll be honest with you, there was not one person that wanted me to go junior college. And this is including my family, brother. Everybody said go to Montevallo, and again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with Montevallo. They're fantastic at baseball. But I was like, I just don't know if my journey ends there. I was like, I just don't know. And I was like, I'd hate to kind of close the door and do that. And I was like, so I was actually with one of my best friends, Will Stripling. He was in my car one day and incoming another impulsive decision. I said, I'm going to Wallace State, Hansville. I'm just not even going to tell anybody. Didn't tell anybody.
Wow.
Called Randy Putman. I said, I'm coming. And I go back home. I tell my parents. Obviously they weren't like mad at me. They were just like shocked because the easiest route was Montevallo because I was going to junior college as a junior with nothing going for me. I was just hurt. The academics were going to be messed up. It was going to be really difficult because I'd already completed those 2 years. So there was just not a lot of, it really didn't make sense for me to go there. But I was like, my philosophy through all of this was I want to be able to look myself in the mirror at the end of the day and say that I gave myself every opportunity to be successful or achieve the things I dreamt of as a little kid.
Right.
And so I end up going and I trained my freaking tail off. And that's what I try to tell these kids. It's like, you guys think you work hard? I was like, guys, I was 7 days a week, 3-4 hours. I was like, you guys train for an hour 3 times a week and you think you're getting your work in. I was like,
Right.
there's a whole nother level of dedication and commitment when you really have your back against the wall and you want to get to where you want to go. And for me, it was me versus the world. I really had, obviously my family supported me when I made the decision, but it was like when I committed to UNC at 14, my crowd was everywhere. Everybody was congratulating me. It was like, but when I go to Wallace State as a junior, it's not the same. So I quickly realized, what really needs to happen for me to get to where I want to go. So I busted my tail. I mean, I'm literally every single day. My days revolved around my throwing, my working out, everything. It was so detailed. Every throw I made mattered. I mean, I had a goal of where I wanted to get to velocity wise. So I ended up going to Wallace State, and at no point in my career have I confirmed or actually hit 95 miles an hour ever. They'll be like, oh, you hit 9. I'm like, well, where's it at? Like, nothing was confirmed. So I was like, I get to Wallace State and I'm sitting 94, 97. And I'm like, okay, this is the Drew that I knew I could beat. And so it gets kind of crazy again. I pitched the fall at Wallace State. I'm 94, 97. I gave up 1 run the whole fall. It was the last game of the fall against Jacksonville State. I gave up 1 run. And I think I had like 30-something strikeouts in like 12 innings. Throwing strikes, pitches are great. I felt at that time I was SEC closer ready at the moment. And so I go through the whole fall. Not a single phone call from any schools. Wow. Zero. No D2, no D1, no mid-major, no nothing. So I go to Coach Putnam and I'm like, man, like, what else do I have to do? Like, I was like, I feel like I'm better than the guys that are pitching right now in the SEC. And so he actually made some phone calls. And, Coach Randy Putnam changed my life to this day. You hear some crazy stories about him, but that guy is one of the most respected coaches I've ever had. I respect him, everything he said, everything he did. His philosophies are so different, but you just got to buy into what he coaches and what he's teaching. And a lot of it's the mentality. He teaches you how to overcome adversity and win situations when you're supposed to lose. And he engraved, I already had a little bit of that in me just from the things I had to go through to get there. But he really engraved that into me and taught me, it's a dog-eat-dog world. Nobody cares that your arm hurts. Nobody cares if you make it. Nobody cares. And so I adapted that mindset. I just put my nose down and got to work. And so he made those phone calls for me. Let me circle back. And the next day, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Louisiana Lafayette called me. And this is when the fall's over. So I'm like, well, why are they calling me now? I was like, they didn't even get to see me pitch. And so Louisiana Lafayette wanted to get me down on a visit. It was a super far drive. I kind of told him I wasn't necessarily interested just because I was going on visits to Ole Miss and Mississippi State. So time for another curveball. I go to Ole Miss 2 or 3 weeks after the fall's over, and I have to go to one of their camps so they can watch me throw because legally I cannot go throw for them on their campus without it being a paid camp. So I actually had to pay to go to their camp so they could watch. And I'd been shut down. I shut down. I haven't thrown a baseball. They called me and said, can you get here this week and throw a bullpen? So I'm like, here we go again, another curveball. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll figure it out. So I go there. I throw the best bullpen of my career to this day, the best bullpen of my life. I've thrown thousands of them. I didn't miss a spot. I was sitting 92, 95, like just a I brought the presents. I was using my smelling salts in front of them. Like I'll just really just show like I'm here. Like here I am. And so they ended up sitting me in the bleachers after that. And there was other kids there, and they ended up offering me in the stands. I sat in the bleachers with their coach. Then Mississippi State found out that they offered me. They brought me on campus the next day. They offered me then. So I was kind of in a waiting period. I only had 2 offers, Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Of all the, I mean, just it makes no sense. And so I told my coach, my parents, my teammates at Wallace State, I said, hey guys, I'm gonna commit to Ole Miss today, and told everybody. This is not a lot of people know this. So I got texts from Randy Putman still to this day, says, congrats, Drew, hotty toddy, like all this stuff. Like I was committing that day. I was waiting for Ole Miss, Mississippi State to get out of practice. And Mississippi State calls me first that day. And they only called me like maybe once a week, just another coincidence. And I was like, I was talking to Coach Foxhall, and he was like, we got this, we can add this for you. Basically, I was going to save a lot of money. And I was like, you know what? It does kind of make sense. Like, I love Starkville. I love the small town atmosphere. Like the guys that I've met when I was at Starkville or in the locker room on the visit, I was like, those guys were just like me. Like, I'm not a fraternity kind of guy, and that's kind of the vibe. It was kind of more in totally opposite cultures. Totally. And there's nothing wrong with either one. But I was like, I really fit in Starkville. And I like to deer hunt, duck hunt, like all that stuff. And I was like, those guys had duck stickers on their back of their trucks. They're wearing blue jeans. And I was like, yeah, so it all kind of made sense. I was like, you know what? Another impulsive decision. I committed to Mississippi State that night.
Wow.
And I called my coach Putnam back, and I said, hey, coach, change of plans. I'm going to Mississippi State. And then, literally, I still have the text message thread that says, congrats, Hail State, back to back. I know. My mom, she's probably about to strangle me at that point because I just keep making impulsive decisions. But I'm super thankful they let me do that at the end of the day, because I learned so much. And I grew so much individually from making those decisions. And I'll tell you this, I don't regret a single one of them. I think I was the player that I was at Mississippi State and the person that I am now because of every one of those decisions that was made, because it took a lot of growth, took a lot of growing up, a lot of maturity at a young age, and a lot of just figuring it out. And as anything goes in this world, business, classroom, sports, like the best way you can learn is figuring it out yourself. You can have coaches, teachers. This certainly helps, but when you're actually doing it yourself and you're going through it, and there's no better way to learn than some adversity.
Well, I love that. I love that message. That message for the kids out there. And I know, we'll get into, working with the kids, is that your fallback is always yourself and the hard work that you put in. So you kind of epitomize that, and this journey just proves it. Like you call them impulsive, and I'm sure that they are, but they're also like an instinct. Like this is what I want to do, and kind of like this is what I'm doing, and it's in your gut. You're making decisions and betting on yourself the whole time, and then you go to work. And so I love that whole part of your story, is that you're betting on yourself and you're going to work, and take us through. Keep
yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. I've always been the person, take the risk. I can't be the person that sits back so my brother and I'll get to this in a little while, and a little bit about the business side, but he's more of the conservative type. He's going to make the safer play, which is great for us. We need the balance. But I'm always the go-getter. If I have something in my head, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to accomplish it, and nobody's going to stop me. And all those lessons were taught. Now, I've always was like that, but I never really knew how much I could do until I gave myself that mindset going through it in the collegiate sports. Like, it really taught me, if you really want something, you got to work for it. And the only person that's stopping you from doing it is you. And it took me a while to really learn that, but I needed that adversity of, like, I would not change anything that happened. And if it was like, hey, you're going to get handed this on a gold platter, go to the SEC, that wouldn't have gotten me prepared for where I am right now. And I truly believe that. And it took every piece of that puzzle, and not just that, every person along the way. Coach Putty, I'm telling you, that guy changed my life, my mentality. He got me back to where I needed to be physically. Obviously my family, there's certainly so many people I could name off, but I'll touch on the Mississippi State part of it. So I got there, technically my senior year was my first year there. And, I'm at my best. Like, I am feeling great. I'm throwing hard. I'm throwing strike. I got my JUCO season got cut short because of COVID. So I had a long off season, and that was good for me because I worked hard at the time. Like, I busted my tail. I knew it was a benefit. 95% of the people, it actually hurt them because they didn't do anything, and they ended up getting hurt when their innings and their volume picked up over time. And I saw that with a lot of the guys that I either played with or played against. That's why you saw the spike in injuries the year after COVID, because most of those people didn't do anything. And then it came back to bite them when the volume picked up. But for me, it was an advantage because I love to work. I was actually addicted to it. I couldn't wait to get in there, throw to my buddies. It was kind of just a culture and an atmosphere thing as well. But also, like, a lot of those guys I trained with, they kind of looked to me to help them. So I kind of felt a little bit on a pedestal of, like, I've got to help these people around me because they're watching how I do things.
Right.
So I got to state, and first scrimmage, I'm like, I'm good. Like, I'm the best I've ever been. Like, I feel so confident. Like, you hear about guys that throw hard. I'm like, I know that I throw hard at that time. And I was like, I think 14 guys pitched before me. And this was not an opinion. This is confirmed on TrackMan. 14 of them hit 95. And I was like, I got to wake up. This is about to get real. Because I was then the 15th guy that hit 95. So I was like, how do I separate myself from, and this is not including the other guys who didn't hit 95 or the lefties or the veterans or whatever factor else you want to throw into it. I was like, oh my gosh, this just got real. And granted, I performed. I had a great fall. I really did. I had a really good fall. And I always tell Coach Lamonis this. Coach Lamonis was he's the head coach of Mississippi State now, and he's my coach there. I'm never the person that goes back and just points at the coach. I didn't play. I only threw 4 innings my first season there. And to be 100% real with you, I told Coach Lamonis this. I really didn't understand why. Now, I was like, I felt like I performed. I felt like I had the stuff, and I've always been a realist about my abilities. And I was just a little bit confused at the time. And, even in I had my first 3 appearances that they gave me, I think I had 9 strikeouts. Like, and I'm just like, I'm just not getting an opportunity. Like, and when I do, I'm performing. So it really left me in a confused place because my stuff's great. I'm pitching well, and I ended up having a really bad outing, my 4th one. I can't remember who it was against, but it was some midweek, and did not do good at all, and it really spiked my ERA because the volume wasn't, or the sample size was very small. But I actually pitched really well in the 4 times, or the three of the 4 times that I pitched, and so finally we end up going on to win the national championship that year, and I go to my exit meeting with Coach, And this is a true story. Nobody knows this. He actually asked me if I wanted to transfer out. And I was like, really? Like, I'm a veteran guy. I've been there. I've done that. Like, I've got the stuff. Like, and to be honest with you, this is another bet on myself moment because I'm now about to be a fifth year. And I just got accepted into my master's at Mississippi State. I actually just signed a lease for my rental property there at Mississippi State. So, like, everything was done. And he was like, I think you need to think about transfer. And I was like, so really threw a wrench at me. And I was like, do I leave? Do I go start over again? So I told him, this is what I told him. I said, Coach, I'm coming back. Like, there's no ands, if, or buts. Like, you'll see me here in the fall. And, he said, all right. He said, just know you got a long way to go. And I was like, I just could not figure that out. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I knew if he thought I was good enough, he would pitch me at the end of the day. So went back home, and it was the command piece of it. He thought I was good, but it wasn't good enough. So came back home and I hammered command. I mean, I quit velocity. I got my velocity where I needed to be, and I finally switched gears. Like, okay, I'm throwing hard, but I'm not getting opportunities because there's 15 other guys that throw just as hard as me. And my velocity is probably 50, 60%, or my command's 50, 60% accuracy. So if I improve that, I may get another shot. Come back. Here's another curveball. I get hurt. And he's like, I have a bulge disc in my lower back. Can't pick up anything. I'm hurt. And I'm actually going to open up about a couple of other things here on a little bit of more of a serious note. This was probably the lowest I was in my life at any point was the fall of my fifth year. I was hurt. Everything's going wrong. Mentally, I'm in the dark. Like, you can't do anything when you're hurt. A lot of these athletes will be able to talk to you who tear their ACL, UCL. They have months-longs of injuries, and it's no worse place to be because the only thing you can do is nothing. And I know I'm in the place of I came back. This is probably my last year of baseball, and I'm hurt. And for all I know, I'm probably going to just get cut because I'm useless. If you're useless, you get cut. I don't care where you go. Like, that's just how it works. So, he kind of told me, he's like, look, man, this is Coach Lamont. He's like, you either got to, I'll give you 2 opportunities in the spring in the scrimmages to prove you can be here. That's what he told me. And so I was like, all right, perfect. I'll make it happen. And, just kind of had a little flashback to my JUCO year back against the wall, just me again. And so I ended up coming back, dominated those spring scrimmages, did phenomenal. And as a matter of fact, he never said a word to me about transferring or anything ever again. After that, it's just kind of like business as usual.
Right.
So kind of just, that when I got hurt, so probably about January, I mean, you got to remember, I'm sitting in the corner and I'm watching the team work like this, and it's killing me. Like, it's killing me inside because I can't do anything. I can't do anything. And I know my window is closing in on opportunities, and I need every one that I could get. And so again, I get back to the drawing board. I probably came back a little earlier than I should have on my rehab, but I just couldn't. I just had to get to work. And like I said, I come back, I perform well. So we start our season, and we're probably about 3 or 4 weeks in. I haven't pitched, and I'm just like, gosh, and I'm continuing to pitch well in these scrimmages. And, it's not like I'm just like getting lit up or I'm just like not performing. Like I'm doing well. Like I feel like I deserve a chance. And, I never went to the coaches. I never said, I just was patient. And so they put me in a game. This is when my whole life turns around. They put me in a game, and we're at Tulane, and it's funny enough, I pitched against Tulane probably 7 times in my career. I don't know what it was. I always pitched against them. But we're up 19-1. So it's kind of like, the game's over. They put me in the 9th inning, and I'm ready. Like, this is something like these kids really need to understand, high school and college. Like, if you are not playing, you better be ready when you get your shot, because you may only get one.
Right.
And especially at the higher universities, like when I got my opportunity, I said, now in my head, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is a big moment. This is what I've been waiting for. And that mentality, my mentality is the reason why I was successful. Like, they gave me a shot. I've been working, throwing bullpens 2-3 times a week, throwing 5, 6, 7 days a week, working out 3 times a week. Like, and a lot of this just goes under the rug because, you're with all these teammates, you're doing all these things. You don't just go and advertise that you're not happy, or some guys will, but I was the guy that I was a really good teammate. Like, none of the guys knew that I was mad that I wasn't playing. Like, it wasn't something that, I was a very good teammate. And so they give me my shot. I strike out three batters, 3 up, 3 down, 3 Ks, close the game out. And it's funny, I was so locked in and I was so serious about the moment. Like, we had our team meeting in the dugout. I'll never forget this. Coach Lamonis goes, good job, everybody. He's like, and Drew Talley, good job. He came in there looking like Craig Kimbrell. He was so locked in, like, because I was like, this moment, we may be up 18 runs, but like, this is my time to, if they think about something else, they remember me throwing 95 and striking out 3, and I was ready. So I kind of opened their eyes. Fast forward 24 hours later, we're at Tulane again, bases loaded, tie game, 8th inning. Coach looks at me and they like, so there was a running joke. Like, I was the guy, I did not care. Put me in the game. Like, I didn't need 3 hours to get loose. Like, there's countless times in my career at Mississippi State where I was sitting there in the bullpen on the chair and ran straight out onto the field and pitched. Like, I let them know, like, that was my mentality. You put me in the game, I'm ready. Like, I don't need 3 batters. I don't need 2 innings. Like, I'm ready to go. Give me the ball. And so my trainer looks at me. I was really close to my trainer, Jason Wire, and he said, hey, man, you ready to go? And I was like, ready to go. I just pitched last night. And I was like, I know they're not going to throw me again. Like, especially in this close game, I hadn't got a chance all year. Next thing I know, Coach Foxhall walks down and he goes, go to the bullpen. I was like, okay. So I end up putting on all my red hot. I'm getting all ready. And long story short, they put me in the game, bases loaded, 2 outs, tie game, 8th inning. And I end up getting 0-2 on the guy, and he pops out to right, got out of it. And so that was kind of like another opportunity. And every opportunity I have, I kept taking advantage of it. And long story short, on that season, I literally went on to have the best season of my career. I led the team in appearances, led the bullpen in ERA. Best stuff I had, like, I was pitching whenever I was available, and it just, I didn't let one opportunity slip. Like, I knew every time I got the ball, it doesn't matter if it was not a very good school or Tennessee, like, I was ready and I wanted the ball. I wanted the moment. I wanted to be there because I knew everything that I had that I just talked to you guys about built up to that. So to me, every pitch I threw was every rep from the time I was 8 years old. Like, it was my dream playing there, and I was finally getting a shot. And I think I only gave up in 20 appearances one time that whole season. I gave up more than a run. And there was actually, I think I went 2 or 3 months without giving up a run at one point. And it was all that was a testament to backs against the wall 5 or 6, 7 different times in my career. I should have never been at Mississippi State. I should have never had another chance. I should have never, like, all these things happened, but the end result of all of it and the conclusion of that is if you really want something, you can go get it, but you got to want to work for it. And there's a whole nother different level of work ethic. This is not go hit 10 balls on a tee and go throw one bullpen. Like this is a lifestyle, not a hobby.
Well, my question to you, as I listen to all that, is amazing. I love hearing the passion in your voice and then taking us through the mindset. When you did have moments of doubt, everybody has them. Did you just, I mean, what was your mentality to push past those moments to where you kept with that bulldog mentality of, yeah, this is my time? Like how did you take any inkling of doubt and turn that into what you just described?
The long story short, the only answer to that is get to work. And
So
I
the work
used
gave you the confidence, the actual, like
absolutely.
you put in the time and you're like,
It did not.
this is my time.
Let's say, for example, when Coach told me that, I was extremely disappointed, but I was disappointed for about 60 minutes, and I knew me pouting about it or being upset or mad at Coach, why this, why that. There's only one answer, and that was go to the gym, go throw a bullpen, go study. Why is Coach not? And again, this is where my career, my perspective changed, because nowadays the easiest thing to do is blame the coach and transfer. Mine was, I'm committed to this team. I'm committed to this coach. He thinks I'm not pitching for some reason. I'm not pitching for some reason. If he thought I was as good as I thought I was, we're obviously off somewhere. So what is it? And mine was the command piece of it. So I went home and I identified that. And again, the key here is if you have adversity, you can't blame others. Like just figure out why. Be real with yourself. Be real with your abilities and apply what your deficiencies are to your work. And that is what changed my career. I never once, as many opportunities as I had in my first year there to be mad at Coach Lamonis, point my finger at him, I never did that. And I just simply worked. I worked in silence, and I worked, I was patient. And I worked. And at no point in that time did I slack. Like I was there 2 hours early, an hour late, and an hour after. Like, it's a totally different mindset. And I totally pride myself on that, because if it wasn't for my mindset, I would have never gotten I probably would have never played after my first year of college. Like I engraved this mindset, and I told the media this several times at Mississippi State. Like, I don't care if I feel like I have Tommy John. Give me the baseball. Like, please. Like, if I'm sore, I'm not going to tell you that I'm sore. Like, I want every opportunity. I want the ball. Like, I'm not scared of it. Please give me the moment. Like, I want the bases loaded. I want that. And the coaches really started to see, like, because me talking to you guys versus me on the mound, you don't want to know what that guy was like on the mound inside. Because I was crazy. Johnny, if you've ever trained with me or seen me, like, I trained. I was a different person.
You were. It was very. I was a gamer too, and I like to compete, but you were very intense. I remember going up against you, just in high school, and it was extremely tough at bat, and you would just come right at me. And I think you saw me out a couple times, and a couple of our guys, and it was just you went at them, and I could see it. Like, it was just like you're not gonna get by, like, just with a half.
Yeah, we always knew that about you. We always knew that was in there. So you even developing that mindset to the nth degree is so cool for us to hear, because we knew you had it. It wasn't like you didn't have that, but your answer was always like, I like how you described. You were confused, and that's being real. You were confused, but you realized, I'm not going to blame the coach. I'm working hard already, but guess what? I'm going back into the laboratory and getting this thing even, like, you found you kept finding another gear. So that part of the story is so important for, for the kids. And so now, if you don't mind, like, transition us. I know you haven't finished quite, like maybe you want to talk a little bit about finishing your, baseball career before you get into
Sure. Yeah.
the working with the kids. But tell us how, after that culmination of that season where you had all those great appearances, led the ERA, like, just, you dominated. Tell us where you went from there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. You know, I think what a lot of people can learn is, if they take anything from this, is always be real with yourself and be real with your abilities. I think a lot of athletes nowadays, they develop these egos that don't match necessarily their abilities. And the reason why I think I was successful is because I was always real with myself. As I described earlier, like I really was like, okay, I'm not meeting these. I'm not pitching because I'm not good with my command. It takes a little bit of dropping your ego a little bit to identify and to come up with that, and a little bit of maturity. So that correlates directly with the end of my season. So it was actually, I pitched, Tennessee was my last game of the year, my last game I ever pitched in my career. And I was actually hurt. I was with that. Remember when I hurt my back in that fall, and I recovered, got an opportunity. Not a lot of people know this, but I was actually hurt the whole season. I was literally hanging on by dental floss, and nobody really knew that but me and my trainer. And I was in the hot tub, cold tub, rehab, literally just trying to make it to the next appearance. But I didn't want my coaches to know this because I wanted to pitch. So I would go throw and almost couldn't move the next day. And it got to the point to where we had to identify. I stopped working out with the team because coach was like, and I can't appreciate Coach Foxhall enough for this, because most coaches are like, oh, you're working out, you're doing that. Like, he's like, hey man, the priority is you pitching. That's why you're here. Let's lay off the weights a little bit because your back is killing you, and let's let the priority be pitching. So that helped me tremendously. I went and just did rehab basically. I was doing rehab while pitching in games. It's crazy. So I actually got really, really hurt the last series of the year going into Tennessee. And at this point, like, I was probably consider myself the one of the better relievers on the team. And knew I was going to pitch if I was healthy, but I never told him, like, Coach Foxhall found out, long story short. And I was like, Coach, I said, this may be the last time I ever pitch. I said, I'm healthy. Like, this may be it. I was like, I'm not going to regret, just because I just, my back's killing me, blah, blah, blah. So I come in, I mean, I'm on icy hot, red hot, everything you can imagine to eliminate this pain. And I come in the game, I think I got a pop out and then a strikeout or something, inning over. I came in with runners on base. And I go in our locker room, like, in between innings. And because this was going into the ninth, I came in the eighth. And I'm sitting in our chair in there, and we have all this equipment that nobody can see. It's just this crazy recovery equipment. And Coach Foxhall comes in there. He knows I'm hurting, like, bad. But, like, because I went straight in there, like, almost in, like, tears, like, and I don't cry. And I'm sitting there like, gosh, like, it's just killing me, like, but I can't come out of the game. So he comes in there and he's like, are you good? And I was like, no, but yes. And he ends up walking back out there without telling me. He calls in another guy to come in to pitch. And I'm walking out, grabbing my glove, about to hit the field for the last inning of the season. This was the last game of the year. Like, this is it. This is it. And he tells me, hey, I'm done. And I knew my career was over right there. So, like, I literally went in the locker room and was like, and all my teammates came in there, and, like, I was like, all right. I was mad for about 4 minutes. But I was like, how selfish would it be for me to sit in here while my teammates out there competing? Right. So I got up and I went out to the dugout, and I was cheering on as we were about to finish our last game of the year and be a good teammate, and not make it about me. So that's when it ended. I was really hurt. So I knew I'd done some training previously the year before. And, you know, in my opinion, my love for the game had kind of gone away a little bit at that point because it is extremely stressful. No matter what mindset you have a lot of pressure playing in the SEC. I don't care what anybody says. You can be as tough as you want, but as a family and as a community, we actually relied on each other a lot more than people think because it is very tough. Like you have a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. If you don't perform, your opportunities are limited. And I just knew, I was like, okay, am I a big leaguer? That was my question to myself. And I was like, I don't think so, but I don't love the game enough to continue to put my body through this. And to be honest with you, I was sitting there on draft day watching the draft. I thought I was going to get drafted. Like, I've seen all these guys years before, the guys on my team, like 2 or 3 guys on my team got drafted that were in the bullpen with me. And I was like, there's no way I don't get drafted. I just had a very good year. And not a phone call, not a single one. So to me, I'm just like, what in the world? What else did I have to do? And so that was kind of my sign. Like, I do not regret not continuing playing whatsoever. I had 4 or 5 indie ball offers that were going to pay me a pretty good amount to continue playing, but it just wasn't. I wasn't interested. It was either draft or nothing for me. And when I didn't get drafted, I was like, I had to ask myself, do I want to try to get healthy again? Go compete in indie ball? Like, nothing against indie ball, but I just played against the best players in the country in the SEC, and I dominated them. I didn't get drafted. What's the difference in indie ball?
Right.
Now, granted, I know those guys are probably a little bit better, but you get the point. Do I want to put my body through that again? Do I want to, if that happens, be 4 or 5 years behind on my life if I somehow get picked up as a free agent in the minor leagues, and assuming my body stays healthy? And then the love of the game was kind of just gone. So, like, it wasn't even a question to me. Like, I told every indie ball team no. Didn't even entertain it. I just couldn't believe I didn't get drafted. And I was like, and all these people ask me all the time, like, you had this great career at Mississippi State, and it's hard for me to answer. I'm like, without having a 30-minute conversation of like,
right,
being the old dad that, I hurt my knee, I didn't get drafted. Like, I don't know what to tell these people. I really don't. I don't. They're like, why didn't you get drafted? And I'm like, I honestly don't know what to tell you. Like, and I don't want to be the guy that's like, I should have, or like, you know what I mean? But it just didn't work out. And truthfully, I don't regret one single thing. And this is where it transfers into the business side of it. Like, when I didn't get drafted, I actually had not picked up a baseball, threw on a mound since I pitched against Tennessee. Like, that's how done I was. Like, my body was killing me.
Right.
Mentally, it took a toll on me, giving everything I had through those 5 years. But I was content, man. We won a national championship. I pitched at Mississippi State, had a great career, great time, learned so many lessons, got my MBA. I was very happy. And then I was, actually ended up working at S24 Labs, giving lessons with Jared Howell. And at that time, my brother was coaching at Grissom. So I ended up calling him, and I'm like, hey, Blake, I really want you to come work at this facility. And he's like, I just don't know. I'm coaching at Grissom. I got a great job. So I ended up convincing him to come over. And, me and Blake and Jared are basically running this facility. And it takes off. Like, Blake, we basically got handed the keys to it, and we take off. Like, just takes off. We were full as crap. Like, we're doing so well. And then, honestly, there was a departure there at S24 with Blake and I. We really just wanted to branch off and do our own thing, with our brand behind it, because that's kind of how we felt. Like, we kind of built up the S24 brand.
Yeah.
So we ended up kind of taking a risk there because this is how we're paying our bills. And so the plan was to go to this facility out in Madison Sports Academy with Matt Nelson, great guy. So we actually move our business there. We're renting 3 or 4 cages. And this was a year ago today. This is how quick this all happens. I'm sorry, maybe a little over a year ago. I think we did that about October, November is when we were there. But we end up renting space. So we actually get kicked out of there 2 weeks into it because the construction wasn't completed and the city had to kick us out.
Oh, wow.
So really threw a curveball at us. As you can see, there's been a lot of curveballs thrown my way, but we just keep sitting back and driving them.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said you weren't a hitter anymore, but you're hitting these curveballs back. So that's
I know, yeah. I had to foul a few off before I got a hold of them. But so we ended up going to the yard, and we were there for probably 2-3 months. And then we have our college and pro guys program. We actually had that at Clutch Performance, which is with Scott Barnesby. And then, so we were running half of our business at the yard and half of it at Clutch. So this is crazy how all this happens, but I actually called Scott one day when I'm leaving his facility. And I said, "Hey, Scott, like, I'm gonna throw you a curveball." I said, "If you ever think about selling this place, like, let me know." And he was like, "Really?" Like, okay. Like, he actually calls me about 2 weeks later, and he's like, "Let's sit down and talk." So probably 10, 15 meetings later, we end up working it out, and Blake and I were going to take over both buildings. And I think this was in March is when we took over, and we named it Talley Performance, and we put all of our stuff in there. We took over all the operations and implemented our business into it, took over all of that, and made it our home and our facility in just a very short time of being a company. I mean, maybe 3 months of being a company, and it's a total of 24,000 square feet. And a lot of this comes back. People are like, how did you do it? Or how did you and Blake do it? I mean, a lot of it, man, is just like, we treated our clients and our people so well, and we take everything so seriously and professionally. And, and as you guys know, if you do the right thing, it's so cliche, but if you do the right thing at the end of the day, the stars will align for you eventually. It may not be when you want it to, but eventually it will if you work hard and you treat people right. And those were staples behind our business and our model. And, we grew so fast, we got to a point to where we were able to afford something like that. And it was a massive risk. Don't get me wrong. And this is where the conservative side of Blake came in. Blake at first was very hesitant, very, very hesitant. I was not. I said, "I'll throw the house at it. Whatever I'm in. You give me that space, I'll make it happen." And so that's kind of what happened. So I had to really convince Blake, and we did it, and we bought in. And because one of the other options was to buy the yard, and we didn't. We chose to go the long-term route of the bigger space. And man, has it been a lot of work. It sure has. I mean, I literally don't sleep. I still don't sleep. I work about probably 2 o'clock in the morning every night, wake up about 7 or 8. But it just took a building the culture. All of my trainers and coaches I would send my kid to them. Like, we are so blessed to have so many people that are so knowledgeable, who played the game at a high level. Not any of our trainers are just some regular guy down the street.
Right.
They're all extremely qualified. They're really good. They're bought into us. They're bought into the facility. They're, they really do an extremely good job doing what they're doing. And it just helps us build the culture. And, so I'll circle back a little bit to travel ball. So when I first got done, actually S24 made me coach a travel team. I didn't want to do it. I was not doing it. I was like, y'all are crazy if y'all think I'm getting into coaching baseball like that. Like,
right.
So my cousin actually begged me to coach a team. I was like, you know what? Let's put together a team. Like, I'll coach it, whatever. This is 9U, straight from SEC to 9U. I go to my first game. I thought I was going to have to literally, like, I thought I was going crazy. I was like, this is the worst baseball I've ever seen. The parents are terrible. The umpires don't even know what a ball or a strike is. They don't even know how many strikes there are in a strikeout. I mean, so I'm just like, what is going on? It took 10 years off my life that season. And I think we may have went like 5-30. We were terrible. I mean, we were so bad, so bad. But that's when I developed my love for coaching. I absolutely became so obsessed. It changed. I'm so passionate about the coaching piece of it because it's kind of like when you build like an ESPN dynasty football team. Like it's fun to put these teams together, and most importantly, you have an impact on these kids. Like I go to their sporting events that are not baseball. I go to their any other events. I go to dinner with them. I'm there for them far more outside of being their coach. And obviously I feel like I do a solid job of teaching and developing them. So that's obviously the bonus there. Because I don't have a kid and I'm coaching them. I've coached 9, 10, and 11U. I mean, not very many people voluntarily going to do that. So I've been able to make an impact on these kids' lives and in far more ways than on the field. So that's kind of where it initially started was S24. So then I go out on a limb and I was like, okay, I'm going to start my own travel baseball team. I'm just going to, this is actually when I left S24. I was like, I can't be S24 anymore because I'm not there. So I was like, I'll just start something, bring my team over, start a team. So I was like, I'll do the TVP Dogs. Like one of my first thoughts, didn't put much into it. And this was in March. Came up with the idea. I spent a month creating a website, logo, everything you can think of. And I promote these tryouts with the flyer of me on it and all this stuff. I was like, you know what? I'll do like 7 through 16U. I had no coaches at the time, none. Right. And that's actually when I reached out to you. I didn't have any coaches. Like I was like, I'm gonna start emailing everybody I know. And I had 400 people sign up for my tryout. And I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, I'm serious. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what do I do? So put my nose down and got to work.
Yeah,
and
there it is again.
Man, I'm telling you, I called every coach that I know, ended up getting the coaches that are still with me to this day. I was able to create 7 teams in my first year in less than 2 months of being a dust in the wind to an established organization. Right. And I literally don't know if I slept that whole year because there was one person everybody went to, and it was me. I did the budgets, the scheduling, the organization, the uniforms, the coaches. My coaches were all new to it. They weren't experienced to the admin side of things. They were to the scheduling and or maybe the coaching side. But on top of that, I'm facilitating 100 plus kids. So 100, you got 200 parents plus coaches that are all pointing to one person, which is me. And I mean, my phone was off the hook every day, 50, 100 text messages, emails. I mean, I was swamped, but I cared so much about that product and my brand because my name was on it. And you got one shot to do something like that right, or you're done. Like you ruin your reputation. So I put everything I had, every ounce of energy that I had. The last time I had this feeling when I got told when I left Memphis and I was going to JUCO was the same time I had the same mindset. And I wanted it to be so perfect. And to be honest with you, it could not have gone better. Like it was so well ran, so prepared. So I prepped extremely hard because I wanted it to be done the right way. I mean, I could have had 14 teams if I wanted to, but I want quality baseball, quality teams, quality baseball, quality coaches. I'm not here to make $1 million off these kids. I'm here for the game of baseball and creating the culture and the environment that these kids need. And It is not out there. It is, and that is my selling point to all these people. I was like, I'm not trying to use carsmen sell you, but here's me, here's who I am, here's my product, here's how I'm different. If you want your kid to be a part of that, then you can if he has the opportunity to do so. And I can almost guarantee you 99% of the time I offer a kid in out to come be a part of my organization, they accept it. And, I built the culture. I built the brand. The coaches, the players, the families. If I wasn't coaching my team's practice, I was at another team's practice. I was extremely involved. Everybody in that organization knew me personally because I showed my face. I was everywhere. They knew that I was passionate. They knew that I cared. And I wasn't doing that for show. I genuinely loved it. I didn't want to be at home ever. I had a ball field to be at. Right. And, and all my coaches will vouch and say the same. That's why, you look at a good business by their return rate. I haven't lost a single coach, and I haven't lost a kid to quote unquote a better organization that I wanted to necessarily keep. You know what I mean? So it took so much time and effort. I mean, it was amazing to me though that it was something that a product that I had built to see it be so impactful across the community because it took a lot of people and a lot of help. It was just me at the very beginning, but I ended up building a village of support. And that's what made it work. So I'm not taking credit for everything, but, it did take initially the jump and, the supervision and, what is the organization? What is the brand? I had to identify that. So that's when it transitioned to, I really wanted to take the next step. And I was like, if I want to be a national brand and I don't want to lose these national level kids to these national brands, I have to be one. Otherwise, those kids I'm going to lose because TBP Dogs was not an established national brand. So my good kids, the older that they got, I was going to lose them. And I knew that. And again, that's part of being real with yourself, being real with your business, and whatever you do, honesty is the best way to give yourself advice on, the direction you need to head. And so David Weiss moved down here from Michigan. It's a long story. I'm just going to keep it real simple because I'll talk to you guys till tomorrow morning if I go down this route. But David Sharp, high school head coach, Todd Fine, owner of PBR and Top Tier. They coached together on USA Baseball. David Weiss's son, who trains in my facility, was in Michigan, who coached at Top Tier Michigan for 15 years. His son played on the gold medal team with Todd, and David Sharp were the coach. Okay. Gotcha. So Dave was like, I want to move down to Huntsville, get in better baseball, whole 9 yards. And so David Sharp directed him to us. So long story short, I've known Todd for years. So I was like, you know what? I've known Todd forever because of Coach Sharp. And so I was like, you know what? Top Tier, it's, they're who I stand for. They don't believe in 100 teams. I promised every coach and every parent from day one that I would never change and be money driven in the travel baseball world because that'll ruin everything that I stand for. Now, I do believe in paying for the product. If you want to get my time and our coach's time 5, 6, 7 days a week, that comes with a price, but you're going to get the best. And that's guaranteed. And that also ensures a level of commitment from the families because we don't want to give people a free ride and they can quit on us at any point because they have nothing invested into it. So I wanted the national brand. I knew this was the next step. Dave was already working in my facility. Dave's a phenomenal coach, phenomenal teacher. He's done this. He's done travel baseball for 15 years at a high level. So it just was like a no-brainer. And then I ended up getting my brother involved, which obviously helps because I was doing everything by myself. So I got David, Blake, and then Dylan Dwyer, who played at Kentucky. He was over Wow Factor. He actually came over with us as us four. And so Now, don't get me wrong. This has not been easy. This has not been easy. We've had a lot of figuring out. I've done it my way. Dave's done it his way. We've had a lot of teamwork. How does this work? He's done it his Michigan way. I've done it my way. Dylan's done it his way. Blake's coached at Grissom. We've had a lot of identifying, roles, responsibilities. What does top tier look like? Where do we want to go? And incorporating the facility into it. I've never had to deal with that. So that's a big piece of how much of the facility do these kids get? Because I'm running Tally Performance, I'm running top tier. They go together, but I got to figure out logistically how to make it all work.
Right.
On top of having 11 other trainers in there running their clients with my 9 travel teams plus any other rentals. So there's it is a whole 360 loop of this all coming back together, but it is constant hard work. I'm on the phone all day, every day.
Right.
Hundreds of messages and emails, a lot of problem solving every day. I mean, as a business owner, like it's been a lot of learning.
Let me ask you a quick question, if I can interject.
Yep, go ahead.
When you played travel ball, you played for Knights baseball back in the day. That's they were out of Nashville, right?
That's right.
So, what I love about this part of your journey is, I think, and you know this, we talked about this offline. I think this is what you're doing is so needed in this area because you played, you're 25, 26,
25.
25. So you played in Nashville at a high level at a young age. Johnny played for Team Elite in Georgia, phenomenal team. I know we know players, friends of ours, of yours and Johnny's, that played for Excel, phenomenal programs. But the theme here is some of the best programs, you got to drive 2, 3, 4 hours away. And then you got to, how do you get practice with them, and how do you do this and how do you do that? Now you've got the facility, you've got, obviously you continue to build your brand, and it's all staying in Huntsville. So like you said, if you want to keep these players, you have to, you identified that you want to be a kind of a national brand. You want to be something bigger, something more, so you can attract, obviously, not just the best players, but the best, just the best players, but also the best families and what fits your culture. And you don't want them to have to go seek something in Nashville or South Alabama or Georgia. And so for me, it's music to my ears because I know how much this area, like Huntsville's a great baseball city, but it's had its challenges with, as we know, fields being turned into pickleball courts and all that stuff, which we can get into on another podcast. But what you're doing, and your brother and Dave and all these people that you have recruited and kept and built and grown, this is important for baseball in this area of Alabama. So we love it. We love the fact that you and your group of people have, in a very short period of time, established this, and is only getting stronger. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no,
man.
Hey,
I wanted to point that out because, as someone who has, I stopped coaching after Team Dinger in terms of Johnny. It's like, okay, I stopped coaching. Like Johnny played in Georgia at 14. I had my Royals team at 13. He played Georgia at 14. And then the fall Team Dinger thing was just a fun thing. Like, hey, let's just play 3 or 4 tournaments or weekends in the fall. But I had decided, he doesn't need to be hearing my voice anymore. But there wasn't a lot, there was some, don't get me wrong, there was some good choices out there. Johnny played for Charlie Rogers and some really, really good coaches. But in terms of the program that you're building, I think it's, I think it's really important. Yeah. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, no, I mean, just from the outside looking in, from, just looking and seeing everything you guys have done over there, it's pretty amazing. I mean, and I like what you said earlier about not like spreading yourself too thin. You said you could do like 14 teams, and definitely like with the space you have, and how many coaches you brought along, it's possible, but like having a less is better because you see some of the places that we've been to like growing up, and they have like 14, 15 teams, and you may not get like the exposure, the time you want with those coaches,
Yeah.
like when you get to the certain level that you want to go to and get those levels of exposure, at like Perfect Game and other places. But like having just all of the coaches with you, like, and it does feel like a family. That's so important. I think a lot of kids don't I don't know if they realize how lucky they are, like when they're at a facility like yours, that you can have everybody there, and it's just, I think that's really important.
Yeah,
Which,
I mean, we do our player development days, which is where we're extremely hands on. All of our coaches are there, our staff is there, and I'm actually running rotations in different hours and times where I'm at some when the day's completed, I've coached every kid in my organization, and I've or been hands on. So like for example, front turf will have 8U, back turf will have 9U, right side will be 10s and 11s, and then we rotate them in a circle, and we're in stations, and I'm literally in there hands-on coaching these boys. And, it's not just collect their paychecks, I'm going to give them a jersey and, good luck. Like I've told you and mentioned before, I'm extremely involved. I'm telling you, there's not one person that has not individually talked to me or had a relationship with me or any point. Just like I make sure to build those relationships. I talk to every person in the facility. Like I do. I feel like that's one of my stronger points. I do a great job of building relationships and communicating with others. Letting them know that they are important. Because a lot of organizations, you're just another guy. And that's something I wanted to go across from or not be a part of. And, to add on to your, to your build, make it like a Huntsville one place. Like, I actually went and met, with the mayor about the fields, and I'm always a guy to just like take initiative in whatever you want or in your life. Cause nobody's going to do it if you don't. That's kind of like my mindset. And so, I'm 25 years old. My mom is actually funny. Like I've been extremely independent for a long time. Granted, I have great relationships with my parents, but they've also never given me anything either. And as soon as I left that house on graduation day in high school, I was on my own, and financially everything. And so my mom was like, she made a funny comment. She's like, I just don't know. At 25 years old, I'd be asking to meet the mayor. She was like, and I was like, I don't care. Like, I feel
Right.
so.
I loved it when you told me that when I was at your facility the other day. I didn't know you were going to share that, but I'm glad you did. I love that because you and I are on the same. I see your posts and your notes about it, and it's so important. And if you're a baseball fan, and it is America's pastime, we don't need to be just letting it, get pushed to the side. There's some
yeah,
great baseball in this area, but there won't be for long if there's not any fields, to play. And that to me, Optimus Park is going to be having its 100th anniversary in like a year or two.
Really,
Yeah,
I
and
did not know that.
we need to jump on that because there needs to be a celebration for that. Do you know the history of Optimus Park, man? Do you know Satchel Paige pitched there?
I did
I
not
mean,
know that.
I've got to tell you, Drew, you look up Optimus Park, and see the history of the Negro Leagues that played at Optimus Park. There's
I did
some of
not
the
know that.
greatest players in the history of baseball played in Huntsville, Alabama, at Optimus Park,
Huh.
and people don't realize that place needs to be celebrated. It is a landmark. But that aside, like I love this whole story. I love the journey, but the thing that just shines through that Johnny and I admire you so much for, and your brother, and everybody along the way, is that it's like, the passion comes through, the caring and the depth. It's very deep, the depth that you care about these guys. And it's funny how your first experience is like, they don't know how to call a strike. These kids, the parents, it's just, and then you were like, but I love coaching these kids. Like I have a passion for coaching these kids, and I want to make an impact. You said that like 3 or 4 times
Well, that was
about your
my
coaching
first
journey.
initial thought was, you know, my first thought, and this is my first reaction with anything in life is like, how can I make it better? How
Right.
can I be better? And when that happened, I was like, I can have an impact on this. There's 99% of these people that are involved are just dads or just, I'm like, I have the connections, I have the resources, I have the mindset. I built 100+ kid organization in 2 months. When that happened, I knew that I could do anything that I wanted because I worked so hard to do it. Like, but also that was an immediate sign of my purpose.
Right.
And again, like I said, I fought. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I enjoy training, but don't get me wrong, coaching is my passion. And I would not have told you that 2 years ago. I live and breathe the baseball field and coaching and making a difference in those kids' lives. Like I'm telling you, man, like it's far more than teaching them how to field a ground ball. Like I take my travel teams, I take them. Last year I assigned them each a task. One team had to take food to the police department. One team had to go to the police department and give food. One team had to go to the animal shelter. One team went and rebuilt gardens, or I'm sorry, flowers at a business, landscaping work. Sorry, and they all had a task. And it's my job is make these boys better young men or prepare them for the future. And I try to give them the 360. Not just how to field a ground ball, which I'm going to make sure dang well you know how to field one, but I'm also going to teach you about what's important in the mental side of things and that it's far more than just baseball. Because all of those things that I went through, the reason why I like coaching, because I like to give back and share my story. Not necessarily being, the team leader in ERA, because that's not what it's about. It's about what it took to get there and the people that I did it with. Most importantly, and I want to emphasize on my brother too, because I don't want to feel like I'm leaving him in the dark. This certainly is not possible at all, any of this without Blake. I want to make sure I get that out there. And that goes back to my playing career. Blake trained me. Blake is the one that trained me. He built my programs. He built everything that I did. And he was the first person I'd text or the first person I call after a bullpen, an outing, a scrimmage. He was the one that I went to.
I remember that, yeah.
And same thing with Talley Performance. Like I don't want to sit here and act like I'm taking granted I've worked my tail off, but it's certainly Blake has done a phenomenal job with the college hitters, the pro hitters, and he's taken over this high school market. Totally takes it over. He is on his waiting list is so long you wouldn't even be able to see it out the door.
Right.
And so a lot of this credit outside of, I know this is just kind of us talking, but I want to make sure Blake gets his credit too, of where credit's due, because he's busted his tail making Talley Performance, because he's done a lot of the so kind of how our relationship is. I'm the go-getter. I'm the socializer. I'm the make it happen. Blake is behind the computer, running the day-to-day. A lot of the logistics. He kind of helped build the business model. So we certainly have our roles. That's for sure. I'm a lot more hands-on and like I know all of the people. He's not always been the social butterfly. He's not quiet, but he's not going to go out of his way and like that's just not how he is. He's locked in on what he's doing. He's professional. He's going to do his lessons. He's going to teach those kids how to be the best hitter they can be. And, he focuses on how the business can succeed going forward. And we, like I said, we just have our different roles. I'm the
Great
risk taker.
partnership.
He's conservative. So I
Yeah.
just want to make sure I'm
I
not
like
taking
that.
credit for all that because I'm not.
And yeah, just
No.
to go back on that point, what you were just saying, could you explain to some of the kids and like coaches or anybody else listening, like how important it is to have like a training regimen? Like, I mean, when you kind of start getting serious about it, um, when you're being highly recruited to the point when you need to amp up the levels, like kind of break that down. Like, what is a normal pitching training regimen on like a 7 day week or like a 7 day training span, like your off days, your rest. Uh, yeah, kind of take me through that.
Yeah, certainly varies a ton. Athlete, where they're at. Are they throwing hard and not throwing strikes? Are they throwing strikes and not throwing hard? Did they just pitch 100 innings? Did they just not pitch at all? How old are they? I mean, there's a ton of factors, ton of factors. Everything is. That's why I feel like we've been so successful, is because there's no cookie cutter. It is extremely individual, and every kid that I train, none of them are working on the same things. But to answer your question, there are staples. There's staples to these things. I'm a firm believer in, I don't care how old you are, from the pitching side of things, you should be throwing as hard as you can 3 times a week. One, that's keeping your arm in shape, and also build velocity. I'm a huge believer in drive line. If you can do it correctly, which 99% of you kids, if you're watching, you probably aren't doing it right. So you're probably going to get hurt. So don't do it unless you know what you're doing or you're instructed by somebody who does know what they're doing. Because there's certainly a wrong way to do it that is not good for you if you do not know what you're doing. But if you can do drive line and you know what you're doing, I'm a big believer in that because it's not all about velocity. My drive line routine was to keep my arm in shape and keep me healthy. And I pitched for 20 something years and never had surgery. And I threw hard all the freaking time. Literally to the point where some of the throws in my head, I was like, I'm getting Tommy John right here because I'm trying to throw at 97. But, at the end of the day, the short answer is identify who you are as a player. Who are you? What are you, a leadoff hitter? Are you a 4-hole hitter? Are you a starting pitcher? Are you a closing pitcher? Be real with yourself. Be real with yourself. That's like the biggest piece of like development. If you can't set your ego aside and identify your deficiencies, you'll never get to where you want to go. You'll never get there. So identify that, and most importantly, and I tell these, and I gave a speech last week to some of my kids. Some of you claim that you're working hard, but I promise you're not working hard enough. But there is a point to working hard and working dumb. Like if you go out and work on something that's not productive or with not a purpose for 2 hours, you might as well stay home. So identify what you're working on, identify your deficiencies, and identify how you're going to attack it, and then apply it. That's how you get better. And you can do that for 30 minutes instead of going and taking 500 swings for 2 hours. And I guarantee you get better in that 30 minutes if you have a plan.
It's dead on.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's a great way to kind of end it here. We kind of come back to the work, the hard work, and how important it is, but also knowing how to work hard. It's not, you don't want to overtrain. You don't want to not have a plan. Like you said, better to stay home and instead of 2 hours of mindless whatever. But if you have a strong plan and a good, strong work ethic, then you can see results. So I got to tell you, I learned a lot just listening to you take us through all this, even going back to, like you said, Mayfair, and then all the way through to where you're now. And the passion, comes through. You and Blake and your team there have done an amazing job. We can't wait to hear more about what's going on and follow you through this journey. Come visit you. We see you at the ball field. We've run into you a couple of times over at John.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
We just love it. We love seeing it. We love seeing you. We can't wait to get together with you. And it's Christmas time, so we're going to wish you a Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. I mean, hopefully we can do this again and, maybe a year from now, because my life seems to change drastically every 6 months or maybe less. So,
Well, you're due for a little continuity. I think you're on the path where you're gonna you may have another curveball in there, but I got to tell you, boy, you definitely have had a story in especially the last 2 years of your life. There,
Very
it's
much
amazing.
so.
yeah, no, it's man, and at the end of the day, and I'll kind of end with this because again, I could talk forever about this, but you know, it takes to be successful at anything, and this is just sports, life, business. And again, I'm still young in my career, but I take every ounce of information and knowledge that I can from those that are around me and the ones that have been successful. But you got to give yourself a village of people that want to see your business succeed and want to see you succeed,
Right.
and not ones that are in there, sometimes even selfishly. Um, I the reason why we've been able to do these things in such a short time is simply because we have people, and I wouldn't even consider them necessarily employees, only because that's the professional term. But those people are family to me. Every single one of them, like
Right.
those people that I would have over for my Thanksgiving dinner, like that is a family culture. I talk to them every single day not because I have to, because I want to. And
Right.
at the end of the day, what I've learned through all of this is every coach, every trainer, every parent, every kid, I go above and beyond to build relationships with these people, because that's what life is about. One, and building those things and having those experiences with these people, because at the end of the day, you can chase a dollar, you can chase whatever, but nothing will bring satisfactory more than having good relationships and memories with the people that are around you. And I've learned that, and that is where my passion and where my time goes, and that is into other people. And that is why I think we've been able to get to where we are today, is simply from building relationships and making those around us feel important.
Well said.
Very well said. Very well said, man. I want to thank Drew Talley. We really enjoyed the podcast today and get to learn so much. We really do appreciate it. We hope you guys enjoyed as well.
And if you did,
smash that like button, subscribe, and cop your merch down in the description below. We got 3/4 t-shirts right in stock, and the beanies, as well as the
Lamborghini that we're no Lamborghini.
Disclaimer.
No Lamborghini.
No, we really appreciate it, and catch you in the next one.